So I came back 3 weeks after I took that course, alone this time, no one with me. And the woman who had registered me for the first course, named Barbara Williams, now Barbara Allerding, looked up when she saw me and said, "Oh, hello, Gordon, we knew you'd be back." And I thought, what? Am I that transparent? Obviously I had been. And I was back again and again, and soon became part of the pedagogy guild and part of a cadre in Southeast Sector Chicago, where we had a wild group of people. There were then 5 cadres around the city of Chicago. And
who was in your cadre?
We had Joe Buckles was our prime leader, Methodist pastor in Hyde Park area. But we worked closely with John Baggett, who was working in the Woodlawn area. We had a guy named Ted Swain, who went on to become, I think, a circuit judge in Chicago. Tom White, who was a physicist from the Argonne National Laboratories. We had a wild Methodist pastor who, great image always was, "You've got to get them with a gaffing hook." Jerry Forshee, who I never knew what happened to Jerry, but he was one of the wild ones. Frank and Beth Palmer, a couple who were in the area. Who else? Let's see. I think, yeah, well, Ted and Bonnie Swain were in it originally. Bonnie died a bit later. But anyway, we met at 5 in the morning for our meetings. That was the best time to get together. We found restaurants that were open at that time and had weekly planning meetings. Then I went off. I had taken a job to teach in Western Michigan, Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo. So began a period of developing what we call the Detroit region. And we considered ourselves movement generals, I suppose you'd say. And in those days, we were out to shape the spirit movement. Before I left Chicago, we had been part of the calling together of these cadres that had come into existence around the country for the first gathering and the official formation of the spirit movement in summer of '66.
What was that like?
We gathered to hammer out whether we were going to be consistent in using the Tillich paper in RS1, or it would be up to the local pedagogues to decide what to use there. And I remember some of the discussions about that. And, we decided, we gridded the United States, I believe at that time. And so I was sent out from that meeting to be part of the formation of the Detroit region, since I was in Kalamazoo. We had Len and Phyllis Hockley in Detroit, and Phil Townley, and we had Frank and Marcia Cookingham in Lansing. And a crazy guy named Walt Cargus, pastor in Ovid, Michigan, and then this guy David Dunn came in from Colorado to take a church in Benton Harper, I believe. Is that right? Anyway, nearby in Michigan. Battle Creek, I think. So it was that group that we gathered to plot and scheme, and I went about the churches in Kalamazoo while I was teaching American literature and supposedly writing more on my dissertation, which was beginning to fade a little bit in terms of priorities. But we were in competition with the Cleveland region, I always felt, where Jack Gillis was a good colleague and friend, and so we used to compete as to who would set up the most RS1s, how many people there were at our latest RS1, and how many people were going to join the symbolic order. Neither of us did for several years. We continued in our chosen professions.